Happy Sunday, it's All Legal 2 viewers. Welcome to Sunday Sessions Live. We have a great show in store for you today. We are just gonna wait till some other viewers come on in. I am Kim Walker. Welcome, welcome. Billionaire Ish, what's up? Thank you, my sister, for joining in. Welcome, welcome. Hope you guys are staying safe and healthy out here in these COVID streets, trying to survive through this pandemic. And here she is, the guest of the hour. We are going to talk about what happens when happily ever after does not happen. We are going to go live with Miss Natalie Tellis Robertson. She's coming in.
Hi.
2.0.
Hi, Janine.
Hi, Natalie. What's up? How are you, my sister?
I'm good. You're looking great this evening.
Well, thank you, my dear. So are you. We're just going to wait for some other viewers to come on in and join us in on Sunday Sessions, where the law intersects real life.
Yep.
Every day, all day. Claude, Tellis, Mark, Anthony. Hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Sunday evening.
Yep.
So what's been going on,
Miss
Tellis Robertson?
Yep.
How are you, my dear?
Me? Oh, I'm good.
God walk with me. She said, I'm here, Nad. Benita,
that's my friend Tracy. We went to Howard together.
Yes, we did. All right.
And
we're just gonna wait
you're
for
a Howard grad. But no, you went to Howard for a little while.
I did attend Howard University. Yes. The Mecca.
That's right.
All right, so we're just gonna wait for a couple more minutes to get some more viewers to hopefully join in with us tonight.
Okay. Can you see me? Should I move?
Hand down just a tad bit more.
Okay.
Hi, Benita. The Real Sister 2.0. What's up, my sister 2.0 family? Jamie Foster Brown. Danny Dan 11 joined in. All right, so we're just going to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today one of my law school classmates, one of my ride or dies in law school. There goes another one of our ride or die law school
That's
friends.
right, Kim.
Welcome to Sunday Sessions, you guys. Tonight we are going to be talking about what happens when happily ever after doesn't happen. When we get married, we don't envision the thought of that marriage ever falling apart, but when it does, there's a legal proceeding that has to happen, and it's called divorce.
That's correct.
So Natalie has her own practice in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She is a divorce attorney, so she has so graciously agreed to talk with us about this not so happy topic.
Right. Yes. So yes, I do have a practice in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I practiced in New Orleans for about 5 years, and I've been working in the divorce arena, I think, for about 20 years.
Wow. So I'm sure that you have about just seen and heard it all.
I have. And I started out clerking. In Baton Rouge, I clerked for Judge Luke Laverne, and I also clerked for Judge Lisa Woodruff White. And so I've gotten a couple of different perspectives. I've gotten it from the judge's side, advising the judge, and I've gotten it from a practitioner's side. And it's really interesting in both, from both perspectives. But usually what people say when we're in court is that you can't make this stuff up. It's really, really interesting. And I think it would really be good material for a court television. But in Louisiana, we don't allow cameras in the courtroom. But It's a lot of real life type issues that we're handling every day.
Right.
And I think a lot of people can really relate.
Well, I mean, we're going to go through all of that. But, you know, since this pandemic started, we have heard so many reports about the divorce rate going up, basically astronomically.
That's correct.
Can you, from a divorce attorney's perspective, give us some insight into why we have seen an increase in divorce filings?
Well, I can't tell you for sure, but I can say that from what I've heard from my clients, a lot of people have not had the experience of being together for long periods of time without being able to have a way to have an outlet, to be able to go to work during the day, to be able to meet with friends in the evening. And so a lot of people who may have been on the verge of a divorce or may have had trouble in their marriages, or even people who have not, have started to learn things about the person that they're with day in and day out that they didn't realize before. And there's a lot of also stress that goes with the pandemic because people have either been furloughed, lost their jobs, money is tight, it's difficult to get mortgages paid, it's difficult to pay private school tuition if you have children in private school.
Right.
And so, you know, times have really gotten tight. And if you add those issues to being in close quarters for long periods of time without having a way to vent, I think those have been the number one reasons why people have sought a divorce lawyer, you know, in these times. And that's what I'm hearing from my clients. That's what they call and say, that maybe we would have gone to counseling, maybe we would have been able to work things out.
Right.
But being together, you know, in these stressful times has just sort of, you know, tipped them over the edge. So those are the clients that I've been dealing with since the pandemic began.
So have most of the concerns been financially related, or do you think it's more so just, hey, I'm really just getting to know this person right now and I don't really like the person that I'm seeing right now? Or is it a combination of both?
It's been a combination of both. You know, they may be saying, you know, I'm just not, I'm seeing some things about this person that I've been with that I didn't realize before. And then you compound the problem with the financial issues. And that's when I start to see people give me a call, because we really haven't been able to meet face to face. We've been doing a lot of remote type advising, which I was trying to do a little bit before the pandemic came along. Right. I've noticed people just in their busy lives have appreciated being able to consult a lawyer remotely. And so I have, you know, done a lot of consultations over the phone. I was already sending questionnaires to clients and communicating a lot through email. And the only contact sometimes I would have with clients would be when we made it to the courtroom.
Right.
But now since the pandemic has come along, we haven't really been able to meet, especially at the beginning when we were in phase one and a lot of things were shut down. We didn't have the ability to, you know, meet clients face to face. So I did a lot of remote work with clients, and people seem to like that. And you know, because we've moved into phase two, people have gone back to work, but they seem to continue to like to be able to you know, seek advice from an attorney remotely and not have to travel back and forth to a lawyer's office. We have the capability of scanning documents and emailing documents. Of course, we already had the capability of faxing documents. I do a lot of community property partition. And so I need a lot of documents to figure out what the value of the community is, what the value of the community assets are. And so instead of having to meet with people face to face, I can request documents to be scanned and emailed to me. And then we also can communicate through Zoom. So modern technology has really, you know, made the fact that we need to do things remotely a lot easier.
Right. So have you seen from the people, your clients that have been contacting you, have they been mostly women or men?
It's been a combination of both. And I go through waves, like whether it's a pandemic or not. It seems that I go through waves. I have male clients, I have female clients. Right now, I think the majority of my caseload, it happens to be male clients. Um,
Really?
yeah, and
Okay.
I don't really, and the male clients that I have seem to really like having a female attorney. They like the perspective of the female attorney. And so, so I don't find that there's any bias out there, whereas the male attorneys will think that maybe a female attorney is not capable of handling their issues.
Right.
It's pretty balanced. And, like I said, it goes in waves. Sometimes I'll have a lot of female clients, and sometimes I'll have a lot of male clients. And that just happens to be where I am right now.
Well, I mean, that's good because, as I say all the time, us women attorneys, it seems like we have to fight 10 times harder, for us to be respected and for us to be able to convince, either males or male dominated industries that we can, hold our own, handling their cases or even in the courtroom. So, I
Correct.
mean, that's really good to hear. So you talked about community property, and for those of our viewers who are not legally savvy, can you explain what community property is, or, just the whole aspect of a division of property in a divorce?
Okay, well, yeah. So Louisiana is what we call a community property state. And that just means that everything that you acquire, that you purchase after the marriage is legal, is the property of both people. And so when you come to a situation where you have to part, where you're going to enter into a divorce, then you have to get together and figure out how you're going to divide the assets and the debts, and it has to be done equally. And so that's essentially, that's what community property is. And then the community property partition, like I said, is when you divide the assets and the debt so that each person takes on debt equally and each person receives assets equally.
Okay, and I'm sure you've had instances of where, one or both of the parties are not being fully truthful about the assets that they have. So
So that's
what
correct.
happens what happens in those cases when,
So,
you
mhm.
have a party that may be hiding assets because they don't want their husband or their wife to know about them?
Okay, so for that scenario, we have what we call discovery. And discovery is the process by which you send a series of questions to opposing counsel. And opposing counsel is then in turn supposed to sit down with his or her client and go over assets and debts. Sometimes, even if you have competent counsel who is trying to get the most out of the community property partition, is trying to be fair, you still have clients who are trying to hide assets. In that situation, sometimes we need to hire private detectives, and it gets sticky.
Right.
But there still are a lot of instances where even after you have discovery and even after you have a private detective, there are some people who are just savvy enough to hide assets.
Right. So, I mean, in those instances, after the discovery happens, um, and those assets may or may not be brought to light, um, how does that impact, the finalization of the divorce?
So we figure out what the assets are and we list them on what we call a detailed descriptive list. And so in Louisiana, each person is required to submit a detailed descriptive list listing what they believe all of the assets and all of the assets and what all the debts are and what their value is. And so if you cannot have the parties sit down and figure out which assets should go to what person or how they should divide it, then that's where the court comes in, and you have to set the matter for trial so that each person can be questioned on the stand about what's on the detailed descriptive list, and each person will assign a value and supporting documentation that shows what the value may or may not be. And then it's up to the judge in his or her experience to look at that documentation and try to determine which supporting documentation is is the documentation that's correct.
Right.
And then the judge will, in his or her discretion, value the community and then divide it as he or she sees fit in accordance with the law.
Okay. I mean, you know, I think that's, I'm in Texas, so we're a community property state as well. And, you know, I don't practice, you know, family law.
Yeah.
You know, I was a party to a divorce. So
Yeah.
that's about the extent of my experience, unfortunately, in that realm. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying in, as far as that's concerned. So what about when kids are involved? What have
Okay.
you seen as far as custody battles, custody issues? Talk to us about that.
Well, custody battles are really sad, especially when parties can't come together and decide what they both think is in the child's or the children's best interest.
Right.
Sometimes parties are at odds as to what they believe is in the best interest of the children. In Louisiana, we have a code article. It's Article 134, and it has a list of factors that speak to the children's best interest. And it talks about things like education, spiritual training, you know, there are about 12 different things that they list that kind of guide attorneys and judges about what would be in the best interest of each particular child.
Right.
And so the court tries to take custody matters on a case-by-case basis, but generally in Louisiana, the courts tend to favor a 50-50 custody settlement.
Right.
Because what the courts are feeling now is that the children should have exposure to both parents, whereas in the past, mom used to be the primary caretaker, dad would sort of have every other weekend. It's expanded to 50-50 into a scenario wherein the parents might share months. So and that would look like 7 days on and 7 days off, where
Right.
mom would have 7 full days with the children, and then dad would in turn have his 7 days with the children, and then that would continue, that would just alternate. And so, you know, like I said, some custody battles are not contentious.
Right.
Parents are able to come together, especially if they don't live far apart from each other, if they agree on where the children should go to school, if they agree with medical care, if they agree how they're going to split the tax credit, then it works out well. But if parents can't do that, then we have tools in place to try to help us figure out what's best for the kids.
Right.
And in some instances, we even have what we call a mental health evaluation. And that is really for a mental health professional to interview all members of the family, find out the feelings of all members of the family. The children's desires are taken into consideration. They're not the main thing the court's going to look at, but the children's desires are taken into consideration when the mental health professional is interviewing mom and dad and the children. And then the mental health professional will make a recommendation to the court, because of course the mental health professional is better equipped with the psychology of what everybody is going through to be able to aid the court in what might be in the best interest of the children. And sometimes the court follows that, and sometimes the court, you know, goes a different way. The court might see something that they feel like the mental health evaluator has not seen. But in all cases, it does seem tough for the children.
Of course.
But we do have things to try to mitigate that and make it easier for children. There's counseling in place. In Louisiana, we have what's called a parenting coordinator, so that if the parents really are at odds, there's a sort of a mediator, which is the parenting coordinator, can come in and say, okay, I see why you all can't come together on this particular issue. Let me look at it from both sides and give you a recommendation as to how to move forward on this.
Well, I mean, I can definitely understand that. And I think that what you said about, you know, a counselor getting involved, especially when you have kids, is just so very important. Because sometimes kids get lost in the whole process of the divorce.
That's
I mean,
true.
there's so much contention sometimes between the parents that the kids are the ones that end up, you know, actually suffering the most. So I think that it's so important. And so another aspect that I want to talk about, what happens when you have situations where one of the parties is the victim of domestic violence? How do you
Okay.
handle those cases?
So we have in Louisiana a battered women's program. At least in Baton Rouge, we have the battered women's program. And I practice in the family court in Baton Rouge primarily. And the battered women's program well, it serves to have women or men, because, sometimes men are victims of domestic violence as well.
Absolutely.
Women or men can go to the domestic violence, the Battered Women's Center, and there are trained professionals there to help guide them and to help them file paperwork to have the court hear their domestic violence issues. And so family law attorneys do handle those cases. A lot of times there are attorneys that work with the Battered Women's Program that, I guess you could say, they sort of prosecute the cases. They're the ones who look to see if they're viable cases, and they try to ask enough questions in court in order for the court to grant what we call a protective order. And then people who are defending against having a protective order granted against them, can hire private attorneys to come in and defend them against the allegations that are present in a protective order. And so that sort of ties into a divorce, because if a protective order is granted, there is a grounds for divorce whereby you can get an immediate divorce if a protective order is granted.
So immediate, what type of time frame are you talking about?
So the only thing that has to happen is that the protective order has to be granted, and then a court date has to be set up for a request for a divorce based on the fact that there was domestic violence and that a protective order is granted. So it really is just about the timetable for the court's docket, when the court can put you on its docket in order for you to come in and introduce the evidence, which would be the protective order showing that domestic violence was committed, an order was granted by the court, and that you have the basis or the grounds for divorce based on a protective order. So it really can turn around pretty quickly if the court's docket is not full.
Well, that's good. Because and another thing or another issue that's been in the news because of the pandemic has also been an increase in domestic violence cases. So have you seen an increase in your clients, in your client base that have contacted you regarding divorce due to domestic violence issues?
I personally have not had that in my practice. I have heard that there's been an uptick in domestic violence issues between domestic partners since the pandemic. And for those reasons that we discussed at the beginning of the conversation, that people are having prolonged contact with one another. And if there was already an issue, it's just escalated. And so I have heard that there's been an uptick in those types of cases because of the pandemic, but I personally have not seen that in my practice.
Okay. That's a good thing. So what about child support? You want to touch on child support real quick, and how, that's another intricate part of the divorce process.
So it could be, child support could be incident to a divorce, or the parties may not have been married. Usually when you file a petition for divorce, you file a petition and you include what we call ancillary matters in Louisiana. And those ancillary matters are what we spoke about with regard to custody, sometimes some harassment and domestic violence, and then of course child support, because the children need to be supported. And even though we have 50-50 custody in Louisiana, or that's favored in Louisiana, we still look at child support, and we can, the parent who's making the least amount of money can request support, or even if the parent is making the most amount of money, they can still request support from the person who's not making as much money, just so that both parties are contributing to the financial support of the child. And so in a divorce, when you go to court, usually we file a petition for divorce. We can get those ancillary matters put on the docket in about 2 to 4 weeks. And we have what we call the Louisiana Child Support Guidelines. And with those guidelines, we take into consideration the incomes of both parents. And
Okay.
there's a scale that tells us what the basic child support obligation should be. And then we do a division problem to determine what percentage of that basic child support obligation that each parent is responsible for. And so whoever the payor parent is will pay his or her percentage to the other parent. And then with regard to extracurricular activities and extraordinary medical expenses, each parent will be responsible for their percentage of those obligations. And it's the same thing when, you know, the parties don't happen to be married. If you have a child and you weren't married to the person with whom you've had a child, you can still, and you all don't live together anymore, and you feel like, you know, you need to get some support from the other parent, you can file through the state of Louisiana to request child support, and your case will be heard. And it's the same scenario. There is a Louisiana child support guideline. The incomes of both parties are taken into consideration. And then there's a district attorney involved that will guide you and kind of give you an idea of what amount one parent will pay to the other. And then the court looks at that as a recommendation, and 9 times out of 10 will take the recommendation from the district attorney. Every now and then there will be a deviation. A party can ask for a deviation from the guidelines for a number of circumstances.
Right.
And the court, you know, in its own discretion can grant that.
Gotcha. So at the beginning of our discussion, you said that you have, during your practice, I guess, been involved with cases that could basically turn into their own reality show.
Correct.
Can you give us an example, just maybe of one of your cases that would fit that description? Because like I said, I mean, the whole process of going through a divorce in itself is sad. I mean, there are different phases. So, I mean, there's nothing entertaining, and cannot talk tonight. There's nothing entertaining about it. There's nothing that's happy about it. So
right.
Just give us an example of one of the cases that you have been involved with, just to give our viewers some perspective. I can
talk about one case in particular where the parties were arguing over custody of the children. And so one of the older children was living with the father because that was his choice, and the father thought that he could handle it. But the mother discovered through the child and through other sources that the dad was having wild parties. You know, there was a lot of inappropriate behavior going on in dad's home with other women, and the child was witnessing all of this.
And how old was the child?
I think he was 16. And so, you know, I don't know if the father thought maybe at that age he could handle seeing those types of things, but there was alcoholism, there was sex, and the child was witnessing these things at 16 years old. And so, you know, so that was a scenario where we really needed the court's guidance. And in that particular case, the child came in and testified, and that's a difficult thing because usually the children really don't want to indict one parent or the other. They love their parents equally.
Right.
And, you know, children pretty much know right from wrong. They have good instincts. And they know when one parent is not necessarily doing what they should be doing, parenting the way they should be parenting, or exposing them to things that they shouldn't be exposing them to, but they still are reluctant because of their love for their parents to come in and be honest with the court about that. So in those scenarios, we usually ask the attorneys to be present for the questioning, but the parents to agree to step outside of the courtroom so that the child feels as though he or she can express, you know, themselves without hurting the parents' feelings or without fear of retaliation. Because sometimes, you know, parents are not thinking rationally, and they do. So I have had cases where parents have, I guess you can say, threatened the children not to reveal certain things to the court
Wow.
because, the parent wanted to be able to have physical custody of the child for the amount of time that they were hoping for. So that's one scenario. I mean, there have been so many over the
Yeah.
years. What I notice a lot is that when the parents separate and there are no significant others involved, it goes a little bit more smoothly. But when a significant other gets involved, either mom or dad, starts dating somebody else, and the other parent finds out about it,
Right.
sometimes that complicates the issues, especially if the parents aren't respectful to each other about when they're introducing the children to a significant other. A lot of parents are sensitive, and the court is sensitive about the children meeting significant others before it's a good time for the children to be introduced to that. It's already a lot of stress for the children to be going through the parents parting, but
Right.
it's another stress when a third party comes in. And we just really have to be sensitive with the children, and the court is very sensitive to that. The court really wants to make sure that the right amount of time passes of a parent dating a particular person. That time goes by before the children are introduced to the significant other, because then what
Right.
starts to happen is a lot of rotating significant others come through, and the children get confused by several
Right.
different partners entering their lives.
Yeah, I
So
mean, and
that,
I think that is key. I mean, like
yeah,
I said, sometimes, a lot of times, kids get lost in the mix, and the
it's
parents
true.
are just so eager to move on with their lives that they don't take how them moving on necessarily affects their children. So I mean, I
Correct.
think just to be a responsible parent or responsible adult, that type of scenario, introducing your children to whoever you may be dating, is so very important. So I'm so glad that you brought that issue to light.
Yes.
So what other advice would you give someone who is either contemplating a divorce, and just who hasn't reached the point of contacting an attorney to actually file the paperwork and get the process started?
Well, I usually, sometimes I get clients that come into the office who I feel like are not ready yet. And I tell people when they come into my office and they still feel like, well, maybe we could go to counseling. I'm not sure if this is what I really want. I still love my husband or wife. If someone comes into my office and says that to me, then I say, I don't think that you're ready yet for this process. And so I have sent clients away to either seek individual counseling or try, some couples counseling. And in this arena, we work with a lot of mental health professionals and marriage
Right.
counselors, because, frankly, we need those people even after the divorce process starts. But because we have a list
Absolutely.
of people, that we work with, we know who to send people to talk through their issues and see if maybe the marriage is salvageable. And so I don't know how people view divorce lawyers, just somebody who is off the street, thinking how even that maybe we're sharks and that we want the money or that we want the cases. But truly, all the divorce lawyers that I know really don't want to take a case until we feel as though the people who are coming to us are ready for that process. That is what they want to do. And we're not trying to convince anybody to go through that process, that they are already there and they just need us to guide them through the process.
I mean, and that's really, really good information to provide, because like you said, a lot of lawyers have a bad reputation, and especially dealing with um, you know, a marriage, and a marriage where children may be involved. People want to feel comfortable with the attorney that they're going to contact, and if you, like you said, if you feel that they're not ready, and tell them to go try to work it out, I think that's just the decent human thing to do,
I
aside from
agree.
being an attorney. All
I
right, so
agree.
we have some questions, so I'm going
Okay.
to try to get some of these in, and I'm going to preface this by saying that Natalie is licensed in Louisiana, and so she can only reference questions just generally as it applies to Louisiana law. And I say that, you know, if you need any additional advice, please go seek an attorney in your state. All right, so let's see. I know I saw a question from Aurora G, and I just want to say hello to, you know, our other viewers that came in. DJ Classic Z, Riley, let's see, Babita 23, hello, hello. Oh, Aurora G said, and its arguments is one of the reasons, I guess, why the divorce filings have gone up. And its arguments because they are missing the other woman or the other man.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, that very well could be.
It could
Nigel
be.
Atwell, hello, hello, my friend. Ali, hello, hello. Sean, hello. Rob, what's up? Kim said, do you experience parents requesting to force a relinquishment of rights to custody?
So I have had those scenarios where parents are coming in, where a parent has come in and says this person is not, it has not parented in the past.
Okay.
And you know, and I would like to either be the sole custodian, or I would like for this parent to relinquish his or her rights. Now, I don't typically practice in the area where rights, taking away rights is litigated. That's usually in juvenile court here in Louisiana. I have been involved in a case like that. And what typically the request is, and what the scenario typically is that dad has not been involved or paid child support or had any contact with the child for 6 or more months. And there is another father figure, significant other, who is willing to take on that responsibility. And so Louisiana, as a public policy issue, wants to keep children supported. And so only if there's a father who has not had contact with a child for more than 6 months, by way of not having physical contact, not calling, not giving any child support, that's when a court will seriously consider another person who can step into the shoes of that parent and take on those rights, and then thereby have the other person's rights. I hate to say taken away, but that's really what happens.
That's really what it is, right?
That is what happens. Courts are very reluctant to do that, but if it is a situation where dad is or mom is very neglectful, and that can be proved through the points of the statute that need to be proved, it does happen.
Okay, well, there you have it, Kim. All right, and so we had Kendall Cage, one of my hometown brothers from Youngstown, join us. Hello, hello. Well, Natalie, we are just about out of time for tonight. So any last thoughts about, you know, other outside endeavors? Because Sunday Sessions also promotes entrepreneurship. And, you know, you are an entrepreneur in your own right because you have your own law firm. But are there any other outside entrepreneur endeavors that you are currently involved in or pursuing that you want to talk about?
Well, I am working on a website that has a list of frequently asked questions that people can go to the website and look at and get some of their questions answered if they're thinking about getting a divorce. People usually just kind of want to know what their rights are.
Right.
And so there are some things that you will be able to access my website to get questions answered for free. And then there will be a subscription that you can buy in order to get more in-depth questions answered. And then there will be something else that you can do. We'll have a service whereby, you know, you might not want to engage a lawyer full time, but you may want to have someone that you can consult with. And so we're going to offer a service whereby, you know, you can do that, or that you can have someone an attorney guide you through the process without having to go through the full expense of hiring an attorney. Now, I would say though that, you know, you're always in a better position when you have a lawyer, because
Right.
there are just things that you just cannot anticipate. And then we have the training, and our training makes it such that we're able to advise thoroughly. But, you know, if you can't afford it, or if there are just certain things that you need advice on, this website that I'm putting together is going to be a tool for people like that. Right now, my Instagram handle is Natalie Y72, and I'm going to be posting some informational type videos for people who just want to know about divorce law weekly.
Right.
And then as you watch those informational videos, they'll direct you to the website once we get it completely created, and direct you to some more resources for people who are going through community property partitions and divorce issues.
That is good stuff. I mean, that is going to be such a helpful tool. And so we are going to be looking out for that website. So again, you guys follow Natalie. Natalie, spell out your IG handle, please, so that they can be sure to check, you know, back with you so that they can get the information for that website.
Okay, so it's Natalie, the letter Y, 72. So it's at Natalie Y72.
And what's the name of your law firm?
It's Affordable Divorces. I just rebranded. So Affordable Divorces is the name of the business right now. And I also work with Antoine Law Firm of Counsel. So both of those businesses are located in Baton Rouge, and we can be found by Googling us.
There you have it. I say all the time, Google is a beautiful resource.
It is. You can find anything on Google.
Anything.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you, Natalie, for joining us here tonight on Sunday Sessions at It's All Legal 2. You are welcome back anytime, because like I said, there's so many other topics, you know, that are involved with divorce that we just don't have the time to get to tonight. But definitely I want you to come back and, you know, continue to share the knowledge and just, you know, continue what you continue, you know, that you're doing as far as representing your clients, you know, and being an advocate for them.
And thank you for this platform. Thank you for this platform. And I really enjoy it, and I would love to come back.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Neely LLC said, very insightful. Thank you. Well, thank you, you all. Thank you all my viewers and Natalie's viewers for joining us tonight. You know, for all the latest legal information and news that affects everyday life, just please be sure to keep following at It's All Legal 2 on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook at It's All Legal 2. If you enjoy the content that you're seeing tonight and enjoy the content on my account, please tell your friends to follow me as well. So, Natalie, thank you again, my dear, dear friend.
Thank you. It was good
I will see you in a few days.
Yes, yes.
I will be in your neck of the woods in a few days. So
we can't wait.
Thank you, my sister. Well, you continue to, you know, do the good work that you are doing. Viewers, please continue to stay safe out here, and we will see you back again next Sunday. So be sure to check in with me this week for information regarding my guest for next Sunday. Love you all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.